I really need new cables.
Yuck. Need new cables? Yes you do. Custom braided cables just got more custom with the cable mod configurator. First, select either the full power supply cables or custom extensions, your choice of cable sleeving, either mod flex or mod mesh, with the latter one using nylon sleeving, which is more vibrant in color, but a little bit more stiff, with mod flex being very flexible but less vibrancy. Cable mod supports 8 power supply brands, then you find your model, then add all the cables you'd need for your build with custom lengths as well, and I decided to stick with the basics. And here's the best part. Configure the color per cable, so your color scheme is on point. Link in the description to create your own cable mod custom cables.
Goodbye, old cable. Hello, new cable.
Hello everyone, I'm Dmitry with HardwareCanucks. Welcome to another video review. So my excitement level for the new Be Quiet enclosure behind me was at a pretty new level since their Silent Base series gave nothing interesting frame-wise, and I feel they've gone back to the drawing board to release something truly unique. This is the Dark Base 900. So to start off, we have two variants, the Dark Base 900 and the Pro version, with the $50 price delta between the two, which gets you one tempered glass side panel, which is almost like a standard for premium cases now, and it's very happy to see that here. Then this is the first time ever that we see a wireless charger dock or a Qi charger built into the enclosure. This is so awesome. Place your compatible smartphone on top of the case to begin wireless charging, and then the final difference is a small add-on to the control fan hub, plus two solid LED strips that connect to the hub as well, and we'll cover them later. Now, in the general scheme of things, the price point is not competitive at all, and I kind of see why, since there exists no direct competition for the Dark Base 900 at the moment. Orange, silver, and black are the color options, with distinct accents on the exterior and on the inside as well. And the case, form-wise, to me feels modern yet still carries sort of a Be Quiet aesthetic, but I wish more companies would choose sandblasted aluminum surface over brushed aluminum, as that gets slapped with fingerprints super quickly and it's so annoying to clean. The power button is illuminated with the same color accent as your version of the case. Beside it are 4 USB ports, audio and reset button, and hidden behind the panel is an LED switch to cycle between 5 colors. This is for the Pro version only. They are super easy to install and plug into the hub. The slider beside it is the fan speed control that is available on all models. Orientation of this front panel can be switched to open from the other side. It has thick noise dampening layer on the inside, and the entire panel is really heavy that it doesn't really stay closed if you swing the case around. I know I'm showing you almost like an extreme example, but just be mindful of that. The dust filter is dense, but since you can mount triple 140 or 120mm fans at the front, the top portion will be unfiltered. The dual 140mm fans included here are Silent Wings 3. They're quality fans, and right below is a filter spanning the entire bottom of the case. No need to reach from the back, everything's accessible at the front. Now, the interesting part about the frame is it's fully enclosed, so at the bottom, with tall feet lifting the case off the surface while being carpet friendly, since ventilation is on the sides. The top of the case is also fully enclosed with small ventilation openings near the back, but it's high enough to let the side ventilation do the trick as well. So here you can mount 4 120mm fans or 3 140mm fans and up to a 420mm radiator. Same thing in the front. And the only thing that I would complain about here are the centered mounting positions, but that is the only option while also supporting an inverted motherboard layout. We'll get to that in a little bit. A 140mm fan is included at the rear with 8 PCI slots, and this interesting division at the bottom with 3 panels, and you'll be surprised to see what they're for later. The opposite side panel is solid, not a fan of the text here, but the screws are attached so you don't lose them, and you can mount two 120mm fans which have their own dust filter by spacing out the exterior plate while blocking the noise. Now, fans can only be installed with this panel when this panel is on the main motherboard side, otherwise there is no clearance behind the motherboard tray. Now, before I show you what's so special about the layout, here is the interior. It's a pretty basic ATX layout. Notice the bright orange rubber pieces and an open motherboard tray below and above. There are 7 individual drive cages that are fully metal, they're spaced out from each other and also have full ventilation through. This is perhaps not the most efficient use of all this material, but the modular aspect lets you keep and remove whatever you need, and each caddy is secured with 3 thumb screws at the back with no bending visible. It can fit dual SSDs or a single hard drive, and the thumb screws stay out of the way except for that top SSD if a 90-degree SATA data cable is used. So now onto the most special characteristics of this case, the modular interior frame. Now, important screws on the motherboard tray sit inside these rubber grommets that prevent vibrations and also make them easily to find, so they're nicely visible for you. You can remove the drive cage wall, the dual optical bay, and the main hardware board to invert the system. But first, the motherboard tray has 3 positions: top, medium, and low, to allow extra height clearance for thicker radiators or push-pull setups at the top position. And this is where those ventilated pieces are used to fill in now the open area of the back of the case. It's a pretty brilliant design. Now, you may be looking at this short area behind the power supply, wondering what effect it has on the interior. And so the power supply is installed on a bracket that is spaced out from the back, so the motherboard can fit into that space there. And we have 3 length positions available for the power supply. With the motherboard tray in its lowest spot, we lose 2 bottom PCI slots. This is great for micro ATX boards, but even with full ATX setups, spacing between the power supply and the motherboard is enough to route your I/O and USB cables, for example. The main advantage here is that height flexibility without compromising on anything on the interior, aside from losing access to those 2 PCI slots. And also the second advantage is the option for an inverted system. So you rotate and flip the motherboard tray, and the same goes for the hard drive wall. And here's where I stumbled into a little bit of a problem. Now, since this side originally for the Pro version holds the glass panel, there's a sticker that prevents that metal to glass contact, and behind it are all the necessary holes for proper mounting. And this kind of sucks because this sticker is not totally reusable and no additional pads are included if you were to mount the window on the other side. So all you do is remove the longer pegs that hold the glass in this position and screw them on to the other side to be able to mount the glass on the other side. It just sucks that you have no additional pads. And so this is what the finished inverted layout looks like, with the GPUs at the top and the CPU area at the bottom. Now, having the power supply stay at the bottom is awesome to allow full utilization of that top fan area for cooling. So since the motherboard is flipped, we need to move the power supply on the opposite side. But notice, even with our short 160mm unit, it's almost spilling over into that fan area. And this is because the pass-through cable is right behind the power supply and we cannot move it back even more. But a simple rotation of that modular piece at the bottom to the right side frees up all that extra clearance, so I can move the unit back some more and have total access to those bottom fan slots. This is a brilliant idea. However, the mounting holes for those fans are threaded. Keep that in mind, with no direct access from the bottom unless you remove that part of the case, which you'll need to do for radiator installation. So moving on, mounting the motherboard outside of the case was nice and a little bit refreshing, but reinstallation of this entire part into the case was challenging because of the weight. It needed to, align screws on both sides, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it unless you're inverting the system. And finally, I've put all of my hardware inside, decided to stick to a standard layout because I don't really like upside down text. And here are a few things that you notice immediately. Because the top and bottom portions are open due to the height flexibility, cables are more visible, meaning extra care is required when cleaning things up, especially around the power supply area, which you could clean up more, and I apologize for the mess. But when the back panel is on, it helps to hide that mess But you know what would be great here? A shroud. A power supply shroud is definitely missing here, which would be sweet. One strange inclusion I found here was this single grommet for the hard drive area. Not sure how would you use that properly, but use it to your content. And my drives are installed on the bottom portion for easier cable management, which is definitely a strong suit for the Dark-Base 900. Looking in the back, there's plenty of width here, lots of cutouts and cable tie hoops all around, plus a whole bunch of Velcro straps that are included. Plus, we have an extra SSD bracket beside the hub that on the Pro version supports 8 fans with a PWM connector. So back to the interior, I feel it's a little bit too exposed if the interior is not fully populated, especially with those opening rectangles above the drives and the clearly visible cables around the power supply and on top of the motherboard. It's like a weird mixed feeling between me wanting to either use all of the drive slots or taking them out completely. One thing you could do is place a reservoir above the drives that would fill in that spot, and I feel this case has a lot of potential for water cooling since we have this new height flexibility and inverted motherboard option. And the last thing on the agenda, this being a Be Quiet enclosure, a sound test. And so as you heard, the machine is incredibly quiet, and I had to boost the sensitivity on the microphone and in post-production so you get a reference between on and off for the case. But remember that quiet comes through a balance between hardware and case, not case only. And so the Dark-Base 900 is a true 2-in-1 enclosure with original features and a desire to stand out. And we're giving it the HardwareCanucks Damn Innovative Award. Now, having said that, it's not perfect. The user manual has plenty of errors which are unacceptable. Be Quiet is aware of that, especially when you have to deal with, how to rotate the stuff, and I had some frustrating moments there, but as an overall assembly process, I'm a pretty happy camper. This is that next level of interior flexibility, and this is exactly what needed to be done to set an example. And so that concludes this review. I'm Dmitry with HardwareCanucks. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think about the new Dark-Base 900 from Be Quiet. Stay loud. We'll hear you.